Well, 3 Palestinians have been killed in clashes in the West Bank on Friday, 1 in Hebron and 2 in Nablus. Now, overnight, pro-Gaza protesters centered at the Kalandia checkpoint. At least 2 people died. Well, let's speak now to Sharif Nashashibi. He is a Middle East analyst and joins us live now from London. Sharif, thank you for joining us again today. And we had expected some sort of discussion of a ceasefire or an announcement of a ceasefire at least 2 hours ago. It hasn't happened as yet. It doesn't look so good. Explain to us what needs to happen for both sides to agree to a ceasefire in Gaza.
Well, I think that the delay certainly shows the difficulty in terms of formulating an agreement that would be acceptable to both sides. But I have to say the drafts that I've seen reported by the media do not bode well. Now, we can't say yet how accurately the finalized agreement will reflect the draft, but certainly the draft is based on 3 main points, all of which are problematic. The fact that Israel would continue to have a military presence in Gaza during the ceasefire is a non-starter. And then the negotiating process would be mediated by Egypt, which is hostile to Hamas, so it would be difficult to see how it could be a mediator accepted and trusted by both sides. And then the issue of lifting the Gaza blockade. We don't know how far this draft is going to deal with this issue, whether there will be an implementation process, and whether there will be any punitive measures if Israel refuses to lift the blockade, as it has consistently said it would do. It wouldn't do. So it is fraught with problems, and it's difficult to see how it's going to how Kerry and Ban Ki-moon are going to overcome these major pitfalls.
Let's take a look at both sides, though, Sharif. Now, Hamas has lost support in its usual allies, Iran, and the Muslim Brotherhood in Cairo is virtually non-existent. Now, Hamas is also financially weaker this time round. Can they afford not to get on board a ceasefire?
Well, they're in a very tough situation because they are regionally weaker. And it would be very difficult for them to get better terms, particularly not just from Israel, but particularly because the mediators such as the US and Egypt are certainly not on good terms with Hamas. The US won't even speak to them. So that is certainly a problem. But on the other hand, if Hamas comes out of this accepting a ceasefire that really they have nothing to show to the Palestinian people of any tangible benefit, then this would severely undermine their legitimacy and authority at home. And this is probably a bigger concern for Hamas than any regional issues. It has to come out of this with something to show for it. And unfortunately, so far, the ceasefire proposals we've seen fall well short of anything that could be shown as some kind of tangible benefit to the Palestinian people and certainly to the people of Gaza.
Right. That being the case then, Sharif, do you think Israel wants a ceasefire?
Well, obviously Israel wants a ceasefire on its terms, and what we've seen is that its terms are completely unacceptable. They are not interested in any ceasefire that is coupled with the lifting of the blockade on Gaza. It has consistently refused to do that, and unfortunately any ceasefire is doomed to fail without a lifting of the blockade. And Israel has consistently refused to do so, and I suspect that any ceasefire proposal that calls for a proper and full lifting of the blockade will be rejected by Israel. But unfortunately, I don't see that the mediators that have the primary role in these proposals now are going to really push for a full lifting of the blockade. So I'm really very pessimistic thus far about the prospects for a fair ceasefire proposal and any proposal that would be workable on the ground.
Right. Now, at the same time, Sharif, Hamas's own preservation is based on its ideology of destroying Israel. Now, this comes at the expense of Gaza's own economic development. Where does this leave support for Hamas within the Palestinian community? After all, these are the ordinary Palestinians that are suffering.
Well, I think in the short term, Hamas will be buoyed by support from Palestinians because they're currently in a war effort. They are resisting Israeli aggression. So in a war situation, their popularity might increase. But in the longer term, if Hamas continues to show an inability to improve the situation for Gazans, let alone bringing Palestinians closer to statehood, then this will severely undermine its image as an effective resistor of Israel. And this is something it has to bear in mind, that any popularity it might gain from the current conflict, it will be short-lived unless it has longer-term tangible benefits for the Palestinian people.
Sharif, thank you very much for your insight. Sharif Nashashibi there, Middle East analyst, speaking to us from London.